The hellish Mrs. Haskell, a roguish rich old rascal, waited 40 years to give a tea. But when her husband died, the city of Tacoma found he'd left $1 million and removed a vile aroma. Mrs. Haskell had been frowned on by society, for her husband's business had been far from chic. This ostracized old miser had made his wealth in fertilizer, and the odor from his stew pots left the upper crust quite weak. In fact, in cloistered circles, there'd been much talk of it. This fortune that the man had made entirely out of bits and pieces of deceases, but Mrs. Haskell, they agreed, now worth $1 million and of course entirely freed from any nasty smell, was well worth cultivation, and they greedily decided to accept her invitation. So with furs and handkerchiefs heavily scented, lest there still be a trace of the recent unlamented, they crossed the tracks one very bonsoir, and arrived at the house by the old abattoir. Ladies, they were greeted, take a load off your feet. The hellish Mrs. Haskell has the floor, and while my maid serves the tarts to you wretched old parties, I'll explain what this meeting is for. I'm vulgar as vulgar can be, tra-la, and I'm rich and I'm raucous as hell. I've had lots of fun, and there isn't a one of you women I can't buy and sell. My jewels are all real, not like yours, Mrs. Brown, and my teeth are by God, not by Parker. I've hair on my head, not a wig for a crown, which reminds me Miss Smith should be darker. You've called me a bust, and I'm quite proud of that, for it's my bust, no rubber affair. Look at Sue, the fat lummox, hers a slip to her stomach, though there's no man on earth who would care. Don't give me that hauteur, Lady Grey. Your own daughter made a fine junior league, and with joy. I can point out the dwelling where she got rid of the swelling, and your son, Mrs. King, was the boy. Pass the tea, Lizzie Bell. This is charming indeed. It's delightful of you to have come. You fine vapid old frumps, here's to the patting on your rumps, and she tossed off 5 fingers of rum. Oh, I'm vulgar and vicious, and this is delicious, and how do your gardens grow? You'd not have a rose had I not held my nose. I'm the queen of the garden show. As the dogs and the cats went into the bath, I laughed to myself as I stirred. It did seem so funny to make so much money just selling you bags of... Heard a new one, Mrs. Truman, about your young upstairs maid. That colossal old fossil, your husband's not docile, the beds were not all that she made. And your trips to New York, Mrs. Russell, changed the name of an airline, no less. They put a T on the end of TWA. What the pilots must think, I can't guess. Good afternoon, lovely ladies. We're not very different, you see. I made a few cents with my business, but just think what the breeze brought to me. Your wind may be more Pasadena, but a goose that is cooked will out. So pew to you who have long pewed me. I sold mine for money, you passed yours out free. But with one thing in common, all of us know, using the same composition, I made the dough.